Let me ask you something. Have you ever heard of a trial strategy that's so powerful, so controversial, that lawyers will literally file motions just to stop its name from being spoken in the courtroom? Well, today we're diving deep into one of the most effective and debated playbooks in all of modern law, the Reptile Theory. So let's get right to it.
Everything you need to know starts right here with this quote from David Ball, one of the masterminds behind this whole thing. See, this strategy isn't aimed at a juror's sense of logic or even their sympathy. No, it goes deeper. It targets the oldest, most basic part of our brain, the part that's wired for just one thing: survival.
So, what is it exactly? Well, the reptile theory is all about reframing the entire case. It takes what happened to one person and makes it bigger. The whole goal is to make the defendant's actions look less like a one-off mistake and more like a dangerous pattern that threatens the whole community, including, you guessed it, the jurors and their own families. It's all about making the danger feel immediate and incredibly personal.
All right, here's our roadmap. We're going to start with how you wake up that reptile brain. Then we'll get into the actual playbook the plaintiff side uses. We'll see how they make the danger personal, how the defense tries to fight back, and finally, we'll talk about the big debate surrounding the theory itself. You know, to really get why the reptile theory was such a game changer, you have to look at what came before it. For years and years, lawyers would try to win by making the jury feel sorry for their client. But that strategy has a huge weak spot. It keeps the focus on the plaintiff, which basically invites the jury to second-guess everything they did. And this is where things get really fascinating. Look at the shift here. A traditional sympathy-based argument can easily make a juror think, well, maybe he should have been more careful. But the reptile theory flips the script completely. It gets the juror thinking, whoa, this could happen to me. This could happen to my kids. The juror stops being a judge of the past and starts feeling like a potential victim of the future. At its heart, the reptile theory isn't just some big idea. It's a very specific step-by-step playbook. It's a sequence of moves designed to build a story of danger that corners the defendant and makes them look totally indefensible to a jury that's now thinking about one thing: safety. And the playbook, laid out by David Ball and Don Keenan, is almost beautifully simple. First, you get everyone to agree on a big, universal safety rule, something nobody can argue with. Step 2, you get the defendant to admit they broke that rule. And finally, step 3, you frame that violation not as a simple mistake, but as a conscious choice that puts all of us in danger. And here is the absolute key to making it work: the difference between a safety rule and the actual legal standard of care. The legal standard is, it's complicated. It's full of nuance. But a safety rule, it's simple. It's absolute. It's just common sense. Think about it. Which one hits you in the gut more? A long legal definition or the simple rule? A doctor is never allowed to needlessly endanger a patient. It completely bypasses the complicated legal stuff and goes straight for a core belief. Okay, so the safety rule is in place, and you've shown it was broken. Now comes the masterstroke. The next move is to turn that violation into a weapon. You have to transform what the defendant did from a single error that hurt one person into a massive threat that hangs over everyone in that courtroom. And here's exactly how that story gets built. The lawyer argues, look, this wasn't an accident. This was a choice to break a fundamental safety rule. And that choice, it puts the public, people like you, at risk, a risk that could easily find its way to your front door. And suddenly, the verdict isn't just about money for the plaintiff anymore. It's about deterrence. It's about a jury sending a powerful message to make the whole community safer. I mean, this quote just nails it, right? The goal is to turn the courtroom into a safety arena. It's not about what's fair anymore. It's about what's safe. Jurors are now motivated by that primal fear, that desire to protect their own, and they use large damage awards as a tool to do it. It's less about compensation and more about community protection. Of course, a strategy this potent was never going to go unanswered. You can't just unleash something like this and expect the other side to roll over. So the defense bar got to work and they developed their own counter playbook designed specifically to spot this attack, take it apart, and shut it down before it can get its hooks into the jury. So for the defense, step 1 is just recognizing that you're under a reptile attack. And there are telltale signs. They listen for those big, broad questions about safety during depositions. When an opposing lawyer asks a doctor, would you agree it's never safe to ignore protocols? Ding, 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 the alarm bells go off. They know the reptile playbook is officially open. So what's the big legal weapon the defense has to fight back?
Well, their main argument is that this whole thing is what's called an improper golden rule argument. Now, the golden rule in court is a big no-no. You can't ask jurors to put themselves in the plaintiff's shoes. And the defense argues what the reptile theory is just a sneaky way of doing exactly that. It gets jurors to decide the case based on their own personal fear of what might happen to them, instead of the actual evidence of what did happen.
So how do they put this into action? Well, it's a four-part counterattack. First, they file motions before the trial even starts to get these kinds of arguments banned. Second, they drill their witnesses to never agree with those simple, absolute safety rules. Instead of yes, the answer becomes, well, it's more complex than that. Third, they are relentless about dragging the conversation back to the specific facts of this case, not some scary what-if scenario. And finally, they hammer home the real, nuanced legal standard of care over and over again.
So this entire chess match really boils down to one fundamental question. Is this theory a righteous tool for holding dangerous people accountable and protecting the public, or is it a sophisticated, maybe even cynical, form of psychological manipulation that's designed to hijack a jury's emotions and make them forget about the facts?
And this right here perfectly captures the two competing ideas of what a jury is supposed to be. In the plaintiff's view, the jury is the guardian of the community, the last line of defense, driven by that primal need to keep everyone safe. But in the defense's view, a jury has to be a cold, impartial weigher of evidence, rationally applying the law to the facts. The reptile theory is built to empower the guardian, while the defense fights like crazy to preserve the impartial weigher. So, what's the bottom line here? The reptile theory has, without a doubt, completely changed the game in courtrooms across the country. It's forced both sides to get way smarter about how they tell stories and connect with juries. But it leaves us with this huge question. Is it a powerful tool for community justice, tapping into our deepest and most important instincts? Or is it just a clever trick to win on fear instead of facts? Well, that's the verdict you'll have to decide for yourself.